Hello boys and girls, it's your self-proclaimed favorite maths teacher, Miss Aaliyah Brewster. It's time for us to do grade 5 mathematics. Today's topic is successor and predecessor. In case you're not feeling motivated, remember the words of Paul Halmos. The only way to learn mathematics is to do mathematics. So get up, grab a pencil and a notebook, get settled because we're about to start. Are you ready? I'm ready. Let's begin. To begin today's lesson, we're going to examine 3 photos that will help us to better understand the concept of successor and predecessor. The first photograph, as you can see, is depicting 5 persons that are standing in line at a supermarket. They're waiting to cash and to receive their change. Now let's look at the man in the middle. He's tall, he has on a blue jersey and a blue pants. Now, if I were to ask you who is standing before the tall man, you would say the big fat woman with the handbag, miss. That would be correct. Suppose I were to ask you who is standing behind the tall man, you were going to say the guy with the hoodie and the paper in his hands. That person, miss, and you'll be correct also. So the same concept applies when we're looking at successor and predecessor. But let's move on to another photo. In this photo, we have 5 children. The girl in the middle with the yellow shirt and the purple skirt with the number 3 on her, she is our focus. So we're going to look at her. Now suppose I were to ask you who is standing before her. You would say 2, the guy with 2 on his shirt. And if I were to ask you who is standing behind her, you would tell me the guy with 4 on his shirt. Good. Keep that in mind. Now let's examine a to-do list. A to-do list is a list of all the things that we hope to accomplish in a certain time frame. So you're home from school and mom leaves a to-do list on the fridge for you. The first thing you're going to do is wash the wares. The second is to take a bath. And the third is to study for a math test. Now, before you take your bath, what do you have to do? Wash the wares. After you would have taken your bath, what do you have to do? You have to study for a math test. Now, in mathematics, the terms successor and predecessor refers to the numbers directly before and after a given number. To find the successor for a number, we simply add 1 to that number. And to find the predecessor of a number, we simply subtract 1. Let's look at an example. We have the number 5 and we're asked to find the successor for 5. What do? We add 1 to 5. What comes after 5? 6. 1 plus 5 is 6. On the other hand, if we're asked to find the predecessor of 5, we subtract 1. Therefore, the predecessor of 5 would be 4. 4 comes before 5, okay? Now let's look at another example. If we're asked to find the successor for 8, we add 1 to 8 and that would give us 9. Therefore, the successor for 8 is 9 because 9 comes after 8. Okay, if we're asked to find the predecessor for 8, we simply subtract 1 from 8, which would give us 7, because 7 comes before 8. All right, now let's look at the number 15. The successor for 15 would be 15 plus 1, which would give us 16. Why? Because 16 comes after 15. The predecessor for 15, of course, would be 14 because 14 comes before 15. And we found that answer out by minusing 1 from 15. Okay, now it's time for you to do an activity on your own. You're going to identify the successor and the predecessor for the numbers written there. The first one was done for you. The number we'll be looking at is 5,665. The successor for that number would be 5,666. Listen, the trick to it is not to look at the whole number and get baffled because it's a big number. Look at the number behind, like the last number in that figure, which is 5. Ask yourself, what comes after 5? That would be 6. So we write back 566. What comes after 5? 6. So the successor for that number would be 5,666. Now, the predecessor for that number, again, we're looking at the last number there, which is 5. Now, to find the predecessor, you know that you need to subtract 1. So if we're going to subtract 1 from 5, that would give us 4. So the predecessor for that number is 5,664. Okay? Now, you have to do 3 for me. For the second one, the number you're looking at is 4,321. For the third one, you're looking at 8,909. And for the last one, you're looking at 7,000. You're going to find the predecessor and the successor for those numbers. Were you able to get all correct? Let's verify. For number 2, the number that we were looking at is 4,321. But I want you to forget about the first 3 numbers and look at the last number there, which is 1. So I'm going to ask you, what is the successor for 1? We add 1, that will give us 2 because 2 comes after 1. Therefore, the successor for that number would be 4,322. While the predecessor for that number, instead of adding 1, we are subtracting 1 from 1, which would give us 0. Therefore, the predecessor is 4,320. Okay, 20. Good. Now let's move on to the third one. The number we're looking at is 8,909. Forget about the first 3 numbers again. We're looking at the last number there, which is 9. What is the successor for 9? Or what comes after 9? You would say 10 comes after 9, miss, and that would be correct. Therefore, the successor for that number is 8,910. Okay, and 10. All right. And the predecessor for that number, we have to ask ourselves, what comes before 9? 8 comes before 9. Therefore, the predecessor would be 8,908. Okay, and 8. Now let's do the final one. This one is a little tricky, but I'm going to show you how to get it correctly. We are looking at the number 7,000. And if I were to ask you to find the successor for that number, you know that you just need to add 1. Again, we're looking at the 0, the last number. So if we were to add 1 to that number, that would give us 7,001. 7,001 would be the successor for 7,000. The predecessor for 7,000 now is a little different. We are subtracting 1 from 7,000. And if you were to subtract 1 from 7,000, that would give us 6,999. 6,999 would be the predecessor for 7,000. With that being said, boys and girls, we've come to the end of another lesson. Thank you for tuning in, and remember the words of Paul Halmos. The only way to learn mathematics is to do mathematics. So if you don't fully understand the topic, you can always practice. Thank you once again, boys and girls, for tuning in, and goodbye.